Well, I was born in Faisalabad in 1960, and we moved to London in 1962. That's my father, my mother and myself. We stayed in London, I think, for approximately a couple of years. From there we moved to a town called Huddersfield, which is in the county of Yorkshire. I spent my youth there, spent my education there. We were there until 1977. In 1977, if you recall, there was a sort of a kind of a mini textile revolution, if you like. My father was an engineer, spinning engineer, but all the cotton factories were closing down. So basically, we had to make a decision. Either he stayed in Huddersfield, looked for a new job, or we had friends in Glasgow who had already moved up in previous years and who were doing successful businesses in sort of small corner shops. So the decision was made in 1977 that we should actually move to Glasgow. And our friends over here identified a small shop in a village in Seafar, which is in Cumbernauld. And that was our first business venture. So we bought that shop in 1977. So that was the first move into Scotland. We moved to Scotland. I think the basic reason for moving up was economic. There were really no opportunities left in Huddersfield at that time. The opportunity in Seafar in Cumbernauld came along. The opportunity was raised by a very good friend of my father's who had the shop already. In fact, he had two shops, and this particular one, he said that if we wanted, we could have it. So we decided to take a shop on in 1977. Well, my father, obviously, he worked for somebody else while he was in Huddersfield, and becoming his own boss in 1977 was a huge move. There's no doubt about that. I was only 17 at the time. I had studied in Huddersfield. So when I moved to Cumbernauld, the idea was that I would spend part-time in the shop and part-time in studies. But we actually moved up in the summer of '77, so there was about a 2-month break from the school because of the school holidays. And in those 2 months, having stopped at, having sort of stayed at the shop and having realised that there was a potential for the business there, my enthusiasm for education started to take a sort of a sidestep. And in fact, I didn't go into further education. And obviously running a business for the first time was extremely difficult and very different from having worked for somebody else. But within 6 months, we knew what we were doing. And I had the enthusiasm even then at a very early age that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in business. I didn't want to educate myself. I felt that the real education lay in the practicality of being in business rather than in theory, sitting in a classroom or whatever. And that's why we took it on. When I was in Huddersfield, I got a scholarship to a school there. The school's called King James's Grammar School. It was an old boys' school. I walked away with 9 O-levels, and 7 of those were straight A's. So I was a very good student. And I got a lot of grief from my parents for not going back to education. A lot of grief from them. But I was adamant that I wanted to be in business. I really wanted to make it work. So I had a double-edged sword on top of my neck, really. If I didn't do well, then my parents would have said to me, well, we told you so. You know, you should have educated yourself. And the business would have flopped and I would have been left with nothing. There's another side to this story, by the way, because although we moved to Scotland in '77 and we bought that shop, in 1979, in January 1979, basically about 18 months after that, my father had a dream that he wanted to go back to Pakistan. So we sold everything. We sold the shop, we sold the cars, we sold the house, we sold everything, except for one Toyota Hiace van. And we travelled in that van all the way back to Pakistan, by road, I must say. And we had a lot of money because we sold the business, and we had a lot of money with us. And I remember distinctly arriving in Pakistan on the 14th of February because it was Valentine's Day. So I'll never forget that. We arrived in Pakistan and we stayed for 6 months in Pakistan. We had a wonderful time for the first 2 to 3 months. But then obviously it was my father's dream that he wanted to stay there now. He'd had enough of the UK and all the rest of it. So he wanted to set up a business there. So we took advice from various people, from friends, from relatives, as to what we should do. And people advised us that, you know, set up an ice factory or set up an oil factory or do this or do that. So we invested money in different projects. Now, once the money ran out and we had invested in these projects, we started to go back to these projects and ask for the investment to be returned to us. And every time we went back to them, they said, "We're sorry, but your investment is gone. The building is dilapidated. We need a new roof. We need a new machinery." And we thought to ourselves, you know something, this isn't going to work. So on the 15th of June, we made a decision that we had to go back. We had to go back to Scotland because Pakistan simply didn't have anything for us there. So we actually came back by road. We actually drove all the way back. We had a fantastic journey on the way back. We really did. And we arrived on the 4th of July, I remember that date as well, at Ostend, penniless, absolutely penniless. We didn't have enough money to buy the ticket to take the ferry over to Dover. We spent 2 days in Ostend and we had to phone a friend of ours in Glasgow to send somebody over with some money so we could buy the ticket, so we could get onto the ferry and move into Dover. So we left Pakistan. We left Glasgow in January, and we were, I wouldn't say millionaires, but we were fairly rich. And we arrived 6 months later, absolutely penniless, and we just had to start all over again. We just moved straight to Glasgow then, and we stayed with a friend in a rented house. And I have so much respect for that particular person, that he had a one-bedroom house, and we was a family of us. There was four brothers, a sister, my mother, my father, and we stayed in that one-bedroom house with that particular person for 2 months. But from there we had to carry on. We got back into the business. We worked hard. We go back to where we are now. I remember growing up, even in Huddersfield, and my father always used to say to me that I left my homeland, and when homeland referring to as Pakistan, I left my homeland for 5 years, he would say. And that was a popular saying among the Asians at that time. Okay, I wouldn't want to spend 5 years here. I want to make a little bit of money, and I want to go back to my village and build my own house, buy my own land. That's always, I would always hear that. But that dream was never fulfilled. Because obviously working for somebody in a textile factory, the wage that was coming in was hardly enough just to sort of feed the family. But once we had the business, and once we were able to sell the business, and then my father realized that that dream was about to come true, that now he had this opportunity that he'd longed for so long, that he really wanted to go back. And that's when we decided at that time, but this is the best time now, let's go back. We were young, and so we were told about Pakistan being this beautiful country where we would settle in very easily, people would love us, etc., and all the rest of it. So we went along with that. And that's the reason that my father decided at that time that he wanted to go back to Pakistan. But in reality, practicality, things were totally different. This story I'm telling you actually is not unique to us. It's actually, if you talk to other people as well, you'll find the same thing. A lot of families at that time went back to Pakistan, tried to settle down, but unfortunately the cultural difference is between the UK and Pakistan was so huge that you just could not overcome them at all. And I think after the first sort of maybe honeymoon period, if you like, the first couple of months, we started to realise that, and we did actually start to say to our father, we don't think this is going to work. But to keep his dream alive, if you like, or not to dash his hopes, we went along, and we did try. We won't say that we didn't try. We did practically try and blend in with everybody. We found it very, very difficult. And I think that the crunch came when the money ran out, and we had to go back to the people that we invested with and ask them to sort of come back with some of our investment. And we realized that we were not going to get anything at all. It was better to get out now rather than find ourselves in a deeper hole. And that was the reason that we had to go back. And obviously the condition at that time was that we had no money. I mean, if we had the money, we would have flown back. But we didn't even have that. So we actually had to drive all the way back. I think that once you've been in this country and you've stayed for 10, 15 years, Then morals is a very important part. You learn to live with, and this is no disrespect to Pakistan, by the way. I don't want to disrespect Pakistan because I love Pakistan. But you learn to live with honesty. You learn to live with truth. You learn to live with people taking them at their word and what they say. I think that then becomes inbuilt into you. When you move back to Pakistan, Pakistan has basically stayed where it was for the last 50 years. It hasn't moved on. I won't say that people don't have morals. I won't say that people are all cheats over there. I mean, that would be unfair to Pakistan. But in our case, and I'm going to speak about myself here, we found that the people that we were dealing with would say something to you, and you just took it at face value that what they said was the truth, and what they said was going to happen. But when you actually went back, you realized, hold on a second, this is not what we had agreed. This was not in our agreement. And they would just turn around bluntly and say, but tough. That's the way it was. And I think that fundamentally changed my father's opinion at that time. When we were in Pakistan and we realized that we didn't have the money anymore, we could not stay here. That's the first time in my life that I've ever argued with my father. First time ever. We went home that night, I remember, and I said to him, Dad, we've had enough. I can't stay here. I need to go back. And he said, like all parents do, there's no point in me boli ja raha hu, jana wapas jaake utte. I said, no. I said, listen, it's getting too much now. I can't deal with these people. I just can't. And he said, no. He said, nothing's going to happen. So I had an argument with my dad on that day, and I actually left home, and I went to my uncle's house in the next village. And I cycled there. And I said to my father, and my grandfather's brother was there as well, and my father's uncle. And I knew that my father really listened to my uncle. And I said to him, I've had enough here, I can't stay here. And you've got to convince my father that we have to go back. See, even my brothers and my sister are saying the same thing, that they can't stay here anymore. So we have to go back, and you've got to convince him. And that was the first night I ever stayed away from home, in that particular night. But the following day, my father's uncle actually did go over and did sit down with my father and explain to him, listen, the kids are not happy here. Money is nothing, you go back, you can earn it again, but your family comes first. If they're not happy, take them back. And that morning, when I went back, because I was afraid to go home that particular day, because but I went anyway, and my father was in a different mood. Because my uncle had talked to me, he was in a completely different mood. He said, okay, right, I realised it. He said, how do you want to do this? I said, sell the van. Sell the van, let's catch a flight and just get back. He said, what are you going to do when you get there? I said, I don't know. I have no idea what we're going to do. He said, you don't have a house, you don't have a car, you don't have a business. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just want to get out of here. Just get me out of here and I'll do something when you get there. And then we realised we tried to sell the van, we couldn't sell it, because nobody in that particular area that we stayed in could afford to buy a van of that size. So that's when we decided, listen, just sit in the van, let's drive back. Reaching Ostend, it took us about 12 days, 14 days to reach Ostend. We spent one night in the van in Ostend because we didn't have the money to come back. But when we did get the ferry ticket, and we did arrive in Dover, the first thing that I did was, as soon as we touched into Dover, was I came out of the van, and I just went to my knees and I just kissed the ground. I said, I'm just glad I'm back. That was it. I had no idea what I was going to do. Absolutely no idea what I was going to do or where I was going to go. But I was just glad that I'm back here, that now at least I have a chance to rebuild my life now. When we bought the cash and carry on the 15th of June in 1986, and I distinctly remember one very particular evening. It was summer nights, and we used to close about 7 o'clock, so it used to be pretty daylight as well. I won't name any names here. It was about a week into having opened the cash and carry, and we were locking up. We were closing up. Me, my father, and my youngest brother was there as well that time. 3 of us. And one of the cash and carry owners that were already there just came over and said, "Hello, I believe you bought this." I said, "Yes, that's right." He said, "You made a big mistake." He said, "Yeah, why have you made a mistake?" He says, "Many people have come and tried this and they've left. I'll give you 6 months. In 6 months you'll be finished and you go home." And that really disheartened me. I said, "Yeah, I've opened a new business up here. if you can't say anything good, don't say anything bad. Don't dishearten me like this. But I actually resolved my vow, I want to make this work now. I'm going to show this guy. And I really want it to work. So that was always one, so we always had this at the back where people wanted us to fail. But it doesn't matter how many people want you to fail. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to succeed, then it doesn't matter how many people want you to fail, your business is going to go forward. And in 1987, my father said to me, okay, here are the keys. We'd been there for about a year now. I wouldn't say we were established, but we got through the tough times. We'd had a lot of competition with people, because when we moved in, people started cutting their prices, trying to force us out of business. We just kept to our models. We made sure that we paid everybody. Anybody that brought stock up, we would pay them there and then. So that was one name that we built for ourselves, that these people paid cash money. So people would actually, if they had offers, they had something special to give you on a discount, they would come to us first, because they knew, yaar, bonanza le jao, wo to paise de denge usi waqt. Kisi aur ke paas leke jaake paise milenge ya nahi milenge. So we had built ourselves a little name there. So we get these offers in and we were able to compete. And that was the only way we were able to compete. In 1991, my brother had joined the business by then, Zahid and me. We decided the time had come that we really needed to start to bring in stuff in from Pakistan, from abroad. We had to bring in the jeans in from abroad if we wanted to compete. So we left. We left the UK on a journey which took us to Hong Kong, to China, Thailand, Malaysia, sort of all the countries, looking at the factories. And on the way back, because my father had retired, he was in Pakistan, we stopped in Karachi. And we took a flight from Karachi to Faisalabad. And we thought, listen, we're here, we'll go and say hello to Mum and Dad, we'll stay for a few days, and then we'll fly back to the UK. In the back of our minds, we decided that we were going to do business with Hong Kong. That's where we'll bring our stuff in from. And we're sitting at dinner on the second night, and my parents, my father was there as well. And in typical Punjabi fashion, he said, Hanji, dekhiyan sara kuch? We said, Ji, dekhiyan. Ki sochya? We thought, well, I think we're going to import from Hong Kong. We think that's the best place. Pakistan's baare kuch nahi sochya? I said, no. Well, why would we want to import from Pakistan? He said, nahi, itthe badi achhi factory hai. And I literally burst out laughing. I said, Dad, we were here 10 years ago and we were robbed absolutely. You want to do business here again? Yes. Business karo itthe. Chalo, whatever you do, at least some people come to the country. I want you to go with me tomorrow. I want to show you your factory. And I said, Dad, we're not interested. We don't want to do business in Pakistan. No, I'm going to show you this factory. You come with me tomorrow. Dad said, Dad, you can't say no. So he took us to Lahore. And he showed us this factory. I was actually gobsmacked, because it was a it was on par with, it wasn't as big, but from a technology point of view, it was on par with the factories in Hong Kong. But I still had my doubts, because I really didn't want to deal with these people, because I'd seen what happened earlier. And I said, the factory's okay, but I can't trust these people. I can't. He said, I want to meet you. I want you to meet somebody. And he introduced me to somebody, and I'll tell you what that guy was, right? You know Chris Clothing, okay? It was Chris Clothing's youngest son, Kasim. It was their factory, and Kasim was there. And I spoke to Kasim, and I said, yeah, I've had very bad experiences with Pakistani people before, and I'm really not sure I want to do business. And he made me an offer which I couldn't refuse. He said, Ashraf, what you do is this, right? He said, you take away a small amount, just take away 4,000 or 5,000 jeans off me, and I have my own setup, because they had their own factory here. He said, you take them away, you don't even pay for them. You take them away, you take them to Glasgow, and you sell them in your warehouse. Any reason whatsoever. Right? I won't even ask you the reason. You can't sell them, there's something wrong with them, anything else. You give me a call, I'll pick the stuff up, and I'll take it to my own factory. You're not paying for it anyway, it's not going to cost you anything. I thought, yeah, can't get a better offer than that. I'm not paying for the stuff. If something's wrong with it, if it's not right, I'll just forward it up, he'll come and take it away. So I took that stuff off him. In the back of my mind was, and the stuff came in. And the stuff was brand new. It was really, really good. We put it into the warehouse, and I think we sold it in about 3 days. It was sold out in 3 days. So I remember picking the phone up. He was back as well. I remember picking the phone up, and the first thing he said to me was, yaar Ashraf ki ho gaya? I said, no, yeah, no, it's not like that. I get the stuff sold well. He said, really? I said, yeah. Can I, what do you want to make? I want more. Make I want you to send your container over. Can I, yeah, I don't guarantee anyone. It's okay. I don't need that guarantee. But what you do is you make sure that the stuff that comes in is as good as the ones which arrived earlier. And that's how we started. Because I was brought up in a school in Yorkshire where in fact there was only 3 Pakistanis. 360 boys at school, only 3 Pakistanis in it. So I was aware of the racism that was there. Everyday racism we used to have to face that. But when you moved to Glasgow, that disappeared, completely disappeared. You were part of the community. People respected you. That was the respect that you never had when you were in the UK, when you were in England. And I think that sort of even values even more. Yeah, you know, this is a country which is welcomed us with open arms. So we need to give them something back. So when a lot of cash and carries I know only apply Asian people, but when we started our cash and carry, we had a mixture of people. In fact, we had more Scottish people working for us than we had Asian people working for us. And I think that helped us as well. It helped us in a sense that we were able to attract more of the Scottish customers as well, because we had Scottish people working for us and they were able to talk to them in their own dialect, in their own way. That helped us as well. So that was one challenge that we were able to overcome. When we bought the shop in Seafar, I think that we were one of maybe 2 or 3 families in the whole of Cumbernauld at that time who were Asian. It was a store which wasn't on the main road. It was in kind of a scheme. But I distinctly remember people coming from all over the place and little whispers going on, there's a Pakistani inside. Have you seen that Pakistani inside? Now, again, you know, this is not meant to be in any way disseminate anybody else, but my skin is a little bit light. So people say, you know, but is he really Pakistani? He doesn't look like a Pakistani. And people say, can you speak Pakistani? And I would say words in Urdu and Punjabi to them and say, oh yeah, he is Pakistani. People would come from different schemes just to see these Pakistanis were in the shop. And this would be, you know, it was an amazing thing for us. And we would say, yeah, this is amazing. People are actually coming in and respecting us. And nobody ever swore at you. Because we were in the scheme and our house was next door to the shop. So we would get people trapping them. I mean, the shop was open from 6:30 in the morning till 9:30 at night. 7 days. So it was tough work. But we would still get people trapping on the door, maybe 10 o'clock, 10:30. Yeah, I'm going to go to work for 6 o'clock in the morning. Can you open the shop and give me a loaf of bread? Can I have a couple of pints of milk? And we would go and open the shop up for them. And we would give them the loaf of bread or the 2 pints of milk. And they would be so happy. You know, the loaf of bread would probably be 50p or something, but give you £1. And so just keep the change. That was things that never happened in England. And it was amazing in the way that we felt we were welcomed here. It's an unfortunate fact that the people, the youngsters of this age, the new generation, a lot of them have been born with silver teaspoons. They've been born into families where the business have already been successful. They've not really seen the hard work. And when that happens, it becomes very, very tough. I'll give you an example of what I did with my children. One, I take my children back to Pakistan every year, without fail, every year. And I'll give you a very quick story about something that happened about 5 or 6 years ago. We were driving from our village in Kamalia to Lahore. And obviously it's all agricultural land. And it was in the middle of May, so it was very, very hot. Temperature was about, I think, 40 degrees centigrade or something like that. Obviously sitting in an air-conditioned car, so you don't feel that much. And as I was driving along, I could see all the people in the fields working away. So I stopped my car, and my 2 sons were with me as well. And I said, boys, come out. I said, Dad, why? I said, just come out, I'll show you something. So I pulled them out. I said, you see those people over there? I said, yeah. Again, look how hard they're working. Look how hard they are working. Do you think they work harder than you do? And they said, no. He said, obviously they work not harder than we do. I said, yet they're still characterized as poor people. And look how hard they're working. So don't ever think, don't ever take it for granted that what you have is always going to be there. Okay? One is you need to do sheer hard work. That is obviously part of it. The The second thing is don't forget your roots. Don't forget where you came from. And thirdly, more importantly, don't forget how your parents struggled. Your parents started there as well. They moved to the UK maybe in the 60s or the 70s, but this is where they started from. They were also in these fields. So don't ever forget that. So hard work is part, yes, definitely. But don't forget your roots. Don't forget where you come from. Don't forget how hard your forefathers have worked for all of this. And secondly, don't ever forget your models. Don't ever forget your models. Religiously, on religion, I think that when our forefathers came to this country, it was the same old scenario. Everybody said, yeah, we're just going for 5 or 6 years, we're just going to make some money, we're going to come back. But I think that because they had to stay here, because they had to work extremely hard, and because they really didn't have that much time for their children, I think we lost out a little bit. And I think the part that we lost out on was religion. That we were too interested in making money than looking after our children's education. When I say education, I'm talking about Scottish education, also religion as well. We sent our kids to the mosques, there's no doubt about that. By the age of 12 or 13, they learned the Quran, and as far as we were concerned, that was enough. And they were taken out of the mosques, and then they were sent to the shops or the warehouse or whatever. I think we lost out on that. But, having said that, I think there's a trend now that people are established. People know that they are not going anywhere. They're here to stay. So I think in the last 5 or 10 years, you've seen a lot of sprout of mosques and madrasas has been building up. People are turning back to religion. They say that every cloud is silver lining. Things like 9/11 and 7/7, all these have brought religion to the forefront. It's brought more people going back to the mosque to find out what religion is all about. And I think most importantly is there's a movement called the Tablighi Jamaat, and these people have a fantastic job because they go around the houses and they promote Islam, and they tell you about Islam, and they target the youngsters. So the youngsters are actually getting more and more into the mosques now. If you go into a masjid now, you probably see about 50-50 maybe. 50% are the elder children and 50% are youngsters. Whereas 5, maybe 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. If you had 5 or 10 safs of Jamaat, they were all the elder people with the white beards and everything. You hardly saw a youngster in there. But things are changing. And I think it's important for the parents to make sure that religion is always there. It has to be there. It's the roots of where we are from. And if you lose your roots, you've lost everything. We had a Kashi guy for 1 year. And one evening we locked up and went home. And he said to me, he brought me into the room, he said, "Son, come in, I want to talk to you." And I said, "Yeah." And I thought we were talking about business or the next day or whatever. And he took out the keys of the warehouse and he basically just said, "Here's the keys." I thought I was going to open up the next morning. That's why he's given it to me. And he said, "I'm retiring." He said, "I'm going back to Pakistan." And for a moment I was gobsmacked. I thought, there's no way after what happened you're going to go back again, you're going to sell anything. He says, "I'm not selling anything. I'm not selling anything, you know? I'm just going back myself. And here's the keys to cash and carry. And I want you to remember 2 things." And he said 2 things to me at that time. One, he said, "Whatever you do, don't break anybody's heart in business. Whatever you do, don't do that." And secondly, he said, "Pay every single penny that you owe anybody and make sure you pay it on time." He said, "Keep those 2 models with you and you'll do well." And I've kept those 2 models all the time. Whenever I've done business with anybody, just kept those two sentences in the back of my mind when you do business. And it's amazing the amount of success that brings you.